Good evening. I'm Leland Vittert. Nice to have you with us. Normally on this program, we like to look forward. Tonight, we reflect on what the past 2 weeks have taught us about American politics. And a lot's happened. Virginia voters rejected a Democratic career politician in favor of a Republican who talked about parents taking back their kids' education. Virginia voters also elected their first black female statewide office holder. The Vice President of the United States now has the lowest approval numbers in history. And the murder case against an accused white supremacist who killed two and shot another fell apart when evidence came out showing he is not a white supremacist and videotape emerged proving he acted in self-defense. The backstory and causes of those four separate events are complicated, nuanced, and largely unconnected. But listen to the far left of the Democratic Party, along with media commentators, and they will tell you all of those events come from a racist, bigoted, homophobic, sexist America. For example, here's Jimmy Kimmel explaining Kamala Harris's record low approval numbers.
Kamala Harris has an approval rating of 28%, which makes no sense because she basically has nothing to do. I think I know why Kamala's ratings are low, besides sexism and racism, which are the obvious ones.
Let's unpack that for a second. 51% of America voted for Biden and Harris. A year later, 28% now approve of her. That leaves 23% who, by Kimmel's math, are sexist and racist. So, were they sexist and racist when they voted for her, or did they become bigots over the last year? Or is it because her first year has been marked by failure on her signature issues: border, voting rights, COVID vaccinations, workers' rights, and the digital divide? Or maybe, although the left doesn't like to talk about this, it's this answer by Harris to Lester Holt questioning her about her handling of the border.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
That was in June. She's actually in Europe right now, Paris to be exact, and held a press conference there today. Of all the issues facing America and the world there, you can see Russian aggression, China arms race, Afghan women losing rights. The CNN reporter used his question to ask about the racial makeup of a jury in a Georgia murder case.
So do you believe that justice can still be done?
We actually have embedded in the jury selection procedure specific objections that on behalf of a client, a lawyer can make when it becomes clear that there is a systematic and racially based exclusion of potential jurors.
Really? Of all the challenges facing America, the Ahmaud Arbery jury is up there with China's growing nuclear arsenal or Putin's new threats and aggression against Poland? This isn't new. Here's Charles Barkley, all the way back in 2013, explaining the media's obsession with race.
Race to me is the perfect storm for the media. They love racial animosity. The media loves, first of all, they love anything that's controversial. But race is the perfect storm for them.
All right, now let's move on to Winston Sears' election as Virginia's lieutenant governor. When sworn in this January, she will be the first black female statewide office holder. By any objective measure, this is a win for diversity, inclusion, and progress. Not so, says the far left.
There is a black mouth moving, but a white idea through the running on the runway of the tongue.
Republican Winston Sears seen here attempting suicide by cop.
So to have a black face speaking in behalf of a white supremacist legacy is nothing new.
She won with 1.65 million voters to her opponent's 1.596 million votes. And I have a genuine sense of confusion here. Are the people who voted for or against the first black statewide office holder in Virginia racist? Because by the logic we just heard, it would be all the people who voted for her. This is not just a left versus right war, a Republican versus Democrat war. This is a war inside the left. The man largely responsible for Bill Clinton's improbable presidential win, James Carville, explained the Democratic losses in Virginia and across the country this way.
Oh, it's just stupid wokeness. All right, you don't just look at Virginia and New Jersey. Look at Long Island. Look at Buffalo. Look at Minneapolis. Even look at Seattle, Washington. I mean, just defund the police, lunacy to take Abraham Lincoln's name off of schools.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez responded. One dangerous aspect of thinking there's a, quote, woke problem, she wrote, is that Dem chances for re-election or majorities in House, Senate, and the White House rely on racial justice issue of voting rights. Again, it must always be about race. So back to Winston Sears. Was her election not racially just because she's black or because she just happens to be a Republican? Consider that while we now move on to the fourth event, the murder trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, a potentially misguided 17-year-old who showed up in Kenosha, Wisconsin last year as rioters took over that city. Here's video from that night in August. He brought along his AR-15 rifle along with medical supplies and told friends he was helping guard businesses from Antifa and BLM crowds. He killed 2 and wounded 1. Within days, Democratic congresswomen were sure what was happening. Squad members Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar called him a domestic terrorist who came to Kenosha to kill peaceful protesters. And then candidate Joe Biden tweeted a video with Rittenhouse calling him a white supremacist. As we found at his trial this week, nothing could be farther from the truth. There is, nor was there ever, any evidence to support Rittenhouse as a white supremacist. None. What's more, video evidence conclusively shows he acted in self-defense. But that would mean the narrative falls apart. So the left blamed the judge in the trial. This Vanity Fair headline saying, quote, the Kyle Rittenhouse judge is the actual worst. Many called the judge himself a white supremacist because he dared to protect Rittenhouse's constitutional rights. When the commentators found out the judge was appointed by a Democrat, a new narrative took hold.
The judge has done nothing like that at all, nothing near it toward the defense.
And they're going to ask whether white fright is enough to justify taking a life.
Kyle Rittenhouse enjoys the protection of having been a 17-year-old white young man.
For people who say their desire is a world without racism, they cannot wait to divide America on race. We bring in Robert Patillo, civil rights criminal defense attorney, along with Leonidas Johnson, host of the Informed Consent podcast. Gentlemen, good to see you both. We appreciate it. Leonidas, why?
I tell you, Leland, I've been called a white supremacist myself. I've been accused of having internal white supremacy. So if that gives you some indication of where we are with things. But listen, there's 2 types of people that push these kind of racial issues. The first type are the critical race theory types, the people that really buy into the idea that racism is endemic in our society. It's in our systems, it's in our institutions, it's all throughout everything, it's in our interpersonal relationships. Everywhere you look, the white supremacist boogeyman is coming to get you. Then there's another group. This group is the group that has influence, the people that are pushing the narratives. These people, I don't think they believe what they say. I think that it's all about emotional manipulation. I think they know that emotion is attached to race, to the history of racism in this country, and that they're using that, they're exploiting it, and they know that people will react to it. So why would you defend your argument? Why would you defend your position when you could just throw out racism or white supremacists and then the argument's over?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because nobody right now really wants to argue or discuss those issues. That's why we're glad both of you are here. Robert, you remember this soundbite from then candidate Obama. Take a listen.
And they feel so betrayed by government.
Well, it's not surprising then that they get bitter and they claim to guns or religion or...
I guess this goes to sort of the point that Leonidas was making, Robert. Is the people on TV saying this stuff, are they true believers, or do they just feel like they gain power from it?
Well, you know, I think it's the low-hanging fruit of American politics, particularly on the left, that you automatically know that that when you don't have anything else to say, you could go to racism, sexism, bigotry, jingoism, arachnophobia, homophobia, transphobia, on down the line, and that's the catnip kind of for the far-left media sphere. But on the right, they do the exact same thing. As soon as you see something you don't like, it's Marxism, socialism, communism, Maoism, Leninism, Taoism, or whatever the other thing is. So you don't have to go to any critical thinking. We just label it something that sounds scary to people.
Taoism is a new one to me. Leonidas, have you gotten Taoism yet?
I haven't gotten Taoism.
I haven't either.
I think
I like that. It's a Friday. I guess, Leonidas, this brings up a good point. At some level, is it the media's fault because it's just so much easier and you get a little bit more interactions on Twitter and a few more retweets if you go label it something that the other side hates?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree with what Charles Barkley was saying. It's the perfect storm. It gives them exactly what they need. There's that old media adage that if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. I think it's the same thing with race. Race gives that kind of emotional reaction. It gets the clicks, it gets the eyes, it gets people in their emotions, and it opens up the door for that. But I also think that there is that element of power and control, like we mentioned, and I think that they know that if they can manipulate people that way, they can use race, use sexism, use gender ideology to manipulate people, then they can gain power and control that way.
Yeah, I think we can all probably reasonably agree that the sledgehammer of race, when used, is a lot more powerful than the sledgehammer of calling something socialist. I never thought I would quote Charles Barkley once in a show, much less twice, when he said, "I am not a role model," but there we go. Robert, this was Hillary Clinton responding back during 2016 to some issues. Take a listen.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
That didn't work out well, nor did the elections in Virginia, where Democrats basically just called Glenn Youngkin and Winston Sears, as we just heard, racists. Is there a desire to learn, or why are we seeing this doubling down?
Well, I think they are learning. The primary reason is, for a long time, the best way to kind of gin up African-American or Latino turnout right before the election is to secretly leak that the other candidate might secretly be a white supremacist. But I don't think that has been working in recent elections. And what we're seeing is those communities are now demanding actual legislation. So don't come to me and say you're going to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, you're going to pass the For the People Act, you're going to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, we're going to deal with H.R. 4 in the House of Representatives, and then do none of that, and then kind of try it out and say, oh, you know, the other guy's racist, because I don't think that's an effective strategy. And I think that once they get the understanding you're going to have to start delivering for voters, you can't just put nice slogans on things, then they're going to have to start adjusting their conduct. I think on the political right, it's the same way. You can't just come out and start yelling about Marxism all the time and not deal with the digital divide or teacher pay, those sorts of things.
You know, it's an excellent point, and perhaps, you know, we really saw that from Glenn Youngkin, the playbook you just talked about, Robert, talking about the real issues that matter. Leonidas, I only got about 20 seconds. Do you see the Republican Party learning that lesson quicker than Democrats?
It's hard to say, because I make the point that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party aren't all that different, and they play a lot of the same games. I would hope that they would. I would hope that they would see what's happening, and we talked about last time what happened in Virginia. I'd hope they would look and see that the cultural issues is where the battle needs to be fought, and that we need to back away from this intersectionality and back away from the identity politics, and we need to treat everybody like Americans and human beings. So I would hope that they would get that message. Whether they get it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes the phone rings, but those in Washington don't get the message. Gentlemen, awesome conversation. Couldn't think of two better guys to talk about this with. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Right, have a great weekend.
Entitlement. That, again, you can insert yourself into a situation with a gun that you're not supposed to be carrying, kill two people, injure, and you are made to be a hero.
That's Don Lemon explaining the Kyle Rittenhouse case. He went on to explain that it all comes down to white privilege. Also from CNN, Jeffrey Toobin tweeting, I wonder what the verdict would be in the Rittenhouse trial if the defendant were black 17-year-old from another state who killed two people with an illegal assault weapon. This goes to the jury on Monday. We welcome back former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney Philip Turner, 30 years of trying criminal cases across the country. Correct. Counselor, good to see you. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Is race an issue in this trial because the media has made it an issue, or because it's actually an issue?
Because the media has made it an issue. It is not an issue in this case. Not at all. Not at all.
Why do you, and I know you're an expert on the law, not necessarily a media critic, but why is the media making it an issue in your mind?
Well, because as one of your previous panelists said, it's great. It gins up a lot of animosity and gets people interested. And that's what the media thinks will get them more people watching and more people watching the commercials, and they make more money. I mean, that's all it is about, is trying to just get people agitated. And race is a flashpoint. And so they always want to use it with everything, just inject it in everything, anything, all the time. But in this case, it has nothing to do with it.
There has been this attempt now, especially as the Rittenhouse case has fallen apart, to compare it to the Ahmaud Arbery case, which is a very different case in Georgia, where a black jogger was chased down by three white men in a pickup truck and murdered.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering, this was Don Lemon comparing the two. Take a listen.
Do you think it's your responsibility to stop that person when you're not even sure if they are committing a crime? Because what? It is your street. It is your town. It is your country.
Should Kyle Rittenhouse and Ahmaud Arbery's case be spoken of in the same paragraph, much less the same story?
No, not at all. They're on two different planets, quite frankly. Has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing.
I know when we had you on earlier in the week, you were pretty clear in your thoughts that Kyle Rittenhouse had a very good claim at self-defense based on the evidence. I'm guessing that hasn't changed. But this is another side to this story, which is, and it's been discussed, rightfully so, which is why he was there in the beginning. Take a listen again to Jeffrey Toobin.
What kind of idiot 17-year-old gets a giant gun and goes to a riot? He has no license. He has no training. He thinks he's going to scrub graffiti off with his AR-15. I mean, the stupidity of this. If it were illegal to be an idiot, the jails would be even freer, even more crowded than they are now.
Jeffrey Toobin may know a thing or two about that, so...
Correct. Absolutely.
He in glass houses. But it brings up this important point. Should the fact that a 17-year-old was allowed by adults to walk into a riot with a loaded AR-15 be an issue in this trial at all?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a matter of whether or not his conduct violated the law and whether the prosecution has proven that beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah. That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think you point out something very well with Mr. Toobin making a remark about idiots. I think we all know the answer to that one, and maybe he needs to do some self-reflection.
Well, he did for a couple of months. It appears to have not solved his arrogance, but there you go. Rarely does. Hey, Counselor, it was awesome to have you as always, and I know you're going to be with us next week as closing arguments happen in the Rittenhouse case and then through the verdict. It was good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
A terrifying thought. Some political analysts are pushing the last person in the world that I think any red-blooded American would want to see in the White House. And drug smuggling has become an increasing issue in recent weeks. And we're going to show you how the new migrant caravans are going to only help the cartels. Welcome back. With the Rittenhouse trial and some outlets' obsession with the January 6th insurrection, stories about the crisis at the southern border have been noticeably absent from the headlines and many television programs. But I can promise you it's still happening, and it is about to get a lot worse. According to NewsNation's border report, another 10,000 migrants are expected to start making their way towards the United States next week. On the same day, President Biden is scheduled to meet with leaders from Mexico and Canada to talk about immigration, among other things. Experts expect the Mexican president to use the caravans as leverage during that meeting. The Mexicans have done that in the past as well. As we found out during our trip to the border, the caravans serve two purposes. The cartels use them to make money by charging each illegal immigrant a fee to cross the Rio Grande. And once there, the migrants overwhelm law enforcement, making it easier to smuggle drugs and their own gang members across. Quick search of the Customs and Border Protection Twitter shows in the last 2 weeks, agents have seized hundreds of pounds of drugs worth millions of dollars. Lieutenant Chris Olivares of the Texas Department of Public Safety is part of the team running Operation Lone Star, which the Texas governor started as the Border Patrol pulled back. He joins us with Mexico behind him and about 4,000 gnats as the sun goes down on the Rio Grande. Good to see you, sir. I appreciate it, as always. It seems as though over the past, say, year, the cartels have gotten a lot bolder Where does that newfound chutzpah come from?
Well, they become more bolder because of the lax border policies right now. And with the influx of migrants that are coming across, they're taking advantage of that opportunity because they know when they send a group of families and children, it's going to tie up resources, federal resources. So what that does, it allows these cartels to move drugs across the river, and also single adults that are coming across, criminal gang members. As you showed there, the drugs that have been seized by U.S. Border Patrol, those are drugs that are coming across the river because the fact that these cartels are operating with impunity right now because they feel with the lax border policies, they're taking full advantage of this current crisis right now.
I'm interested in some pictures that you sent. These are from a smuggler that was using a raft to come across, and you and I saw that when we were out on the Rio Grande a number of times. What are we to make of these kinds of incidents and how much more frequently they're happening?
So this is something that we've been trying to apprehend these individuals since the start of this operation back in March. It's been very challenging to apprehend these smugglers that are bringing migrants across rafts because what they do is they use the families, the children, as a barrier to kind of keep law enforcement from apprehending them. And of course, they're at the advantage. They're in the water. We're at a disadvantage to go in the water and try to apprehend these individuals. But I can tell you Tuesday, we were very successful in apprehending 2 of these smugglers that were bringing single adults. Again, these are single adults that were bringing across. So these were adults that were going to try to move further inland, not the ones that are seeking asylum. These are the ones that are trying to get away and avoid apprehension. And we were successful. And you saw there, one of those individuals was a deported felon for sexual assault. The 17-year-old actually assaulted one of our officers, and he had multiple deportations as well for human smuggling and arrest for human smuggling.
Wow. Well, conceivably, what happens to them? They get charged now. Since you guys caught them rather than Border Patrol, do they get charged under Texas law and taken out of circulation?
That's correct. So we have our Texas Rangers that are doing a full investigation on these 2 smugglers, and they will file charges on them for resisting arrest, assault on a public servant, and human smuggling. So we are taking this very serious, and we are sending a clear message to these human smugglers that the state of Texas will take action. That's what we're doing. And we have a great partnership with Texas National Guard, who also is helping us as well, apprehending these individuals. So we're going to continue combating these smugglers that are coming across and send a clear message that it's not going to be tolerated in the state of Texas.
It'll be interesting to see as we check in with our reporters down with the caravans, this new 10,000 migrant caravan, what that message means as it translates down. Lieutenant, it's always good to see you, and we always appreciate the time, especially on a Friday night, sir.
Thank you, and we appreciate your support.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. All the best. America has a new favorite show, what it is and what it says about America. Plus, one of the 13 House Republicans now facing backlash for voting with President Biden's Democrats responds to the criticism that he should be punished.
Just keep on their committees. I'm cool with that. But they shouldn't be leadership of a conference that they turned their back on.
This was a bipartisan bill. There's bipartisan support, and the bill represents critical investments that are long overdue in our country.
There it is. President Biden celebrating the infrastructure bill's passage a few hours ago. He's going to sign the bill Monday and travel the country on a victory lap. At least some of the 13 Republicans who voted with Democrats in the House to pass the bill will likely be at the signing, and at least a few of their fellow Republicans say they should face punishment for giving the president a victory and bailing out Speaker Pelosi, who didn't have enough Democratic votes to pass it. Here's Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs on the program last night.
They went against the entire Republican conference. They facilitated a big Biden win. Not just on infrastructure, they actually turned the key so they can go forward with the Build the Bigger Bankruptcy bill of Joe Biden.
As we noted, Build the Bigger Bankruptcy bill. It was a new one that we had not yet heard until yesterday. So far, Republican leadership in the House has been pretty quiet about what, if anything, they might do against the 13. Joining us now, Republican Congressman Tom Reed of New York, member of the Problem Solvers Coalition, who voted for the bill. Congressman, good to see you. We appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.
You're not running for re-election, so does it make it easier for you to vote your conscience?
No, not at all. I mean, I always try to have an objective look at the bills before us, and I voted for this infrastructure bill because it was the right thing to do for the American people. And obviously, I disagree with my good friend Andy Biggs as to his assessment, but that's reality of Washington, D.C. We can agree to disagree.
We can, and you always have made a a policy of doing so with civility, which we appreciate and is in short supply. Biggs had 2 points. One, which is that it sort of opens the door to the larger bill, because now that infrastructure is passed, they're going to go towards Build Back Better, $2 trillion of spending. But he had some real issues of what was in this bill. Take a listen to some of the pork, and we'll get your reaction on the other side.
What she's not mentioning in there is $66 billion for Amtrak. What she's not mentioning in there is $400 billion of unfunding.
$6 billion of Amtrak?
Well, you know, Amtrak is a rail service that services the Eastern Corridor between Washington, D.C. and New York City. And I will tell you, those rail cars that are flowing on Amtrak rails are made in our district. That puts thousands of Americans to work, plus the additional thousands of people that supply that supply chain. So I will tell you, I disagree with that being pork. That's real infrastructure.
All right, well, fair enough. All politics is local. And an honest man representing his district, we can't say anything about that. You're in a unique position because you're part of this group that voted for impeachment, but voted against holding Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress for the January 6th commission. And just today, actually a couple of hours ago, Bannon was indicted for obstruction of Congress for not complying with the subpoenas. I'm wondering how you view this, because you're in this sort of very unique voting bloc.
Yeah, well, actually, Leland, I did not vote for impeachment. I did issue an op-ed in the New York Times that thought the behavior deserves some censure or some type of penalty of the president. But you don't overturn an election in regards to because you don't like the situation. And so bottom line, though, going forward with Steve Bannon, you know, there raises some very significant legal issues that will be addressed. But I think ultimately subpoenas will have to be looked at, and the legal process has to take its due course in regards to the situation at hand. And then also I was very concerned about how this investigation committee was put together, where Nancy Pelosi rejected the folks that we wanted to have as Republicans on the committee and unilaterally selected her own Republican members to go on the committee. So it was at its root an illegal act that I just could not support the fruit of the poisonous tree.
No, a stand on principle. You've shown you've taken before. Apologies for our bad research on the vote on infrastructure. You bring up an interesting point about Bannon and the January 6th commission. In a weird way, is this sort of something that is a great thing that the Democrats are handing the MAGA coalition? Because suddenly now Steve Bannon and everybody else has somebody that they can fight and rail against and say, here is the evil Democrats out to get us.
There's some truth to that, Leland. It obviously is Washington, D.C. now, when you can find that partisan issue to try to drive people to their camps and energize them to support your camp. And this is going to do it on both sides, in my humble opinion. And that's what Washington, D.C. has become 24/7. And we're trying to change that in the Problem Solvers Caucus and other members that are looking at this from a perspective of what's in the best interest of the American people. And when we're dealing with these issues, often that is disregarded.
Yeah, you can say that again. Congressman, it's good to see you, sir. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. We're smarter and a little better off for having you. There is something truly terrifying in the political newscape right now. At least the political possibility that is currently being floated in the past few hours is scary. We need to tell you about it. We noticed this cover of the American Spectator. President Markle, how Meghan wins the White House. The article ends, "Welcome to Meghan's world," where artifice, pop culture, and politics march in lockstep. Only a fool would bet against her going the distance. We can see down there, it says Leland's worst nightmare, President Markle. Perhaps America's worst nightmare, but in a weird way, kind of like President Trump, nothing could be better for the media. Don't get me wrong. There are a few things I would rather cover than Meghan's run for the White House. It would be endless fodder, but for God's sakes, what do we as Americans, as you can see, pictures of the revolution. We fought a war to get rid of the royal family. And now what do we need to do for the entitled Duchess to either live her life in private that she says she wants, or perhaps she could go back to England where she can live the royal life she chose to marry into. Tony Katz, a fellow Meghan Markle enthusiast, joins us now. Are we going to ever get rid of these people?
Oh, no. As long as somebody can utilize them to move a narrative forward, they're here to stay. And the article is an interesting article. Alexander Larman, I believe, is the author there. He's written about the royals before. And it is well-researched in that he talks a lot to Kinsey Schofield, who, if you don't know her, she is the expert on the royals. She has made herself this. She's an excellent, excellent resource on the subject. The problem is that the article is based on the idea that there's a real enthusiasm for her. Well, there's an enthusiasm amongst the woke set for her, but not in the heartland, not in the middle of America. And it really talks about a larger problem, even though it doesn't say it. We've replaced the idea of talent with celebrity. And we think that because they have name ID or they can get into the good club, that means that they've got a skill set that lends itself to the White House. It's a dangerous proposition for when we talk about Meghan Markle or anybody else.
Well, in a weird sense, right, we've seen that play out a number of times. I'm thinking most notably, it didn't work for Michael Bloomberg. It really didn't. It worked for Arnold Schwarzenegger, worked for Donald Trump, might work for Matthew McConaughey. Is there something about her that parts of America find uniquely offensive as you and I do?
So the idea that she's offensive is the idea that somehow she thinks because she got married, that gives her a certain right or a certain skill set. Donald Trump had a skill set. So we're clear, Donald Trump has done more for New York than any Democrat elected official in New York. Those are the facts, including you can make an argument that at least Michael Bloomberg created jobs, right? That's an argument you can make about Bloomberg. When you insult Indiana farmers by saying it's easy to farm and you've never done it, you're not going to win yourself any elections except maybe in Guam. That's the story with Meghan Markle. She does come across as pompous. She does come across as an egomaniac, and she sells it, as the article discusses well, and people should go to American Spectator and read it. She tries to sell it in almost this Princess Diana kind of way. Oh, look, she's under attack. She's breaking free of the yoke of the oppressive royals.
She's a professional victim, and you think about her and Harry signed a $100 million deal with Netflix, a company that trashed his mother. Says a lot about where their values are. This is interesting, and I know that this is a topic that you probably are not an expert on, but you kind of can talk about anything. Britney is now free, which is evidently a thing. Is that a slow clap?
Absolutely, it is.
Is that a slow clap or a real clap?
No, it's a real clap. Conservatorships are insane. We actually watched a woman have her own life taken from her. Yeah. She wasn't a free American for over a decade. We should be bothered by conservatorships. It's not that because, oh, it's Britney, what's the big deal? She might make mistakes in her life, and that's up to her. But she had her life taken from her. She couldn't spend money if she wanted to. She couldn't redo her kitchen if she wanted to. She wasn't allowed to remove contraceptive devices. This is nuts. This is the kind of thing we would see in third world dictatorships, and we saw it in the United States. So it is absolutely good that she's free. The people have been pushing for this and talking about those programs that you saw on places like Netflix and others. They actually did a lot of good. This conversation should be at the fore about what makes an American citizen, what rights do people have, and how exactly, if they're lost, how almost impossible they are to bring them back.
Tony, you're a good friend. Shabbat shalom. We'll talk soon.
Catch you later, guys.
See ya. The holiday season is coming up, and flying might be harder than ever with more vaccine mandate protests coming. A Southwest airline pilot who's against the mandate and organizing a big group with us next.
What's unfolding in hospitals from California to Colorado is now our clearest sign of a winter surge, with COVID cases climbing in 17 states.
If it's climbing in 17 states, COVID is declining in roughly 2/3 of America. That's good news, but not good enough to stop the vaccine mandate drumbeat. Well, it's not going to happen to the extent that's happening in Austria, which is putting millions of unvaccinated people on lockdown starting Monday, literally. Lockdown, banning them from all normal life. And before you say it can't happen here in America, we know the erosion of freedom is a slippery slope. I'm old enough to remember when Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the White House would not issue a vaccine mandate.
That is the role that institutions, private sector entities, and others may take. That certainly is appropriate.
Yeah, she said that was not the role of the federal government. that all changed. There is a federal mandate, including for contractors, which includes airlines, and just breaking, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld its temporary stay on the Biden vaccine mandate on businesses. But that's not going to help the Southwest Airlines workers. They're now planning a stand-up, stop the mandate rally outside Southwest Airlines' home airport in Dallas tomorrow. Joining us now, Tom Bokard. He's been a pilot with the company for 11 years, founding member of the Southwest Freedom Flyers, joins us now. Appreciate you being with us, sir. All right, you got a reprieve through January 5th. What happens then?
Well, my opinions are my own, and I'm not a representative of Southwest Airlines. After the January 4th deadline, it remains to be seen what's going to happen with us. Mr. Kelly has consistently said over the past month or so since the mandate was announced that he didn't want to terminate any employee. But since United Airlines lost their preliminary injunction a few days ago, unpaid leave is back on the table, at least in a legal sense. So until he comes out and says otherwise, we view it as unpaid leave is still a possibility, which is effective termination.
Any idea why Southwest went from a hard deadline that they had for you guys? There was one rally that you all held, and now all of a sudden it's, hey, no problem, you can work the holidays, right?
That's the way it appears to be. I think that the company didn't expect that there'd be as many of us as there are.
How many are there?
We have about 15% of the company now, and that's only the ones who know about us.
Wow.
That's the workforce, not just the air crews.
Yeah, and then you got this rally tomorrow. I'm interested, is your issue with the vaccine or with the vaccine mandate, and are any of the folks in your group vaccinated?
Absolutely. It's just about the mandate. It has nothing to do with the vaccine at all, as a matter of fact. We have employees who are vaccinated who refuse to show the company their card because they say it's none of their business. We have people who are hard-nosed against the vaccine because they believe it's a tyrannical overreach. And we have people who have taken the vaccine, have had vaccine injury, or just have vaccine regret and don't want to take the next dose.
I'm interested sort of to get your thought on this. American Airlines squaring off with aircrew before holiday travel season. That's reported by our friends at Axios. It's no secret that Southwest had their system meltdown about a month ago that we reported on. It does get the feeling as though this holiday season is going to be anything but fun to fly.
Well, we want to get our customers safely and to where they want to go. That's what we do. Southwest is known for that. And the employees of Southwest love our company and we love our customers. And without our customers, we wouldn't be the great airline and the largest domestic carrier that we are now. So our goal is to deliver customers safely to where they want to go.
Hey, Tom, it was great talking to you. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're doing all this on your personal time, which says a lot about what you believe. We're going to cover the rally tomorrow and then also how Southwest deals with it, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.